Hey, I'm Marty Mcdonald, and you've tuned in into the Audacity of Ambitious Women. This podcast is for all women who are ready to jump boldly into their next stage of life. Whether it's business or personal, it's time to be audacious. So let's get started. I am so excited, you guys, to introduce our guest for today's podcast episode. This episode is dedicated to all of you who feel in your gut that it is time to take the next step, to leap into your calling and give up what is no longer serving you professionally. Lady Jade is a well-known morning radio personality associated with Dee Dee in the Morning radio show in Dallas, Texas. This popular, nationally syndicated radio program heard across the country is well known for its mix of humor, celebrity interviews, current events, and music. Lady Jade, alongside hosts and other members of the show, played a significant role in making the show engaging and entertaining for its audience. Her quick wit, her engaging personality, her charisma made her the beloved figure in Dallas, Texas on the radio scene. In addition to her work on the radio, Lady Jade is involved in community outreach, and she is a philanthropist, y'all. And listen, she is also one of my really good friends. And she decided to step away from her radio career for 20 years. Yes, I said she worked there for 20 years, y'all. And she's only 25 years old. So I guess she started when she was basically 5. But she decided, I'm going to leave. I'm going to take a leap. I'm going to jump. And I'm going to walk into what God has for me. Let's find out why Lady Jade left and why she decided to go and pursue something more than what God has for her. Lady Jade, I'm so excited to have you.
I am so excited to be here. It's so crazy. We were just talking offline. Normally, these roles are reversed.
Yes.
I'm normally interviewing you. So do you know how uncomfortable I am right now?
Listen, I'm about to spill all the tea. No, I love this for you. I love this for you because, first of all, I love for you to be able to share with everybody why you decided to, but beyond what you left, why you decided to make a pivot 20 years later, right? Like most people would be paralyzed and stuck in fear and not being able to do that. But before we get into what has happened and how you're going to encourage so many people, tell me what made you first fall in love with radio?
Ooh, that's a really great question. If I'm being 100% honest, I never chose radio. Radio chose me. I thought I was always going to do television. So when I was in college, I pledged, Marty and I are sorority sisters.
Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
At that time, we were getting ready to have a party. And a guy that I was dating at the time, he had friends at the radio station about 45 minutes from our school. And so he was going to see his friend. Well, my bright idea was like, oh, I'm going to go there and I'm going to promote our party on the radio. You know, it was important for our party to be popping in college. And so I went there and I went there with him and visited his friend. And when I walked into the radio station, it was a night show. I remember thinking to myself, like this looks kind of interesting. Like I want to do television. What if I got into radio and I used that to get into TV? Like it would kind of be a really easy transition. So I applied for an internship. Now, let's be clear. I had to literally stalk the promotions director at the time. And I remember the reason why he called me back. This is probably like the 11th or 12th time I called him because he was not returning my call. And I called and I said, hey, this is Jade. I was just calling to see what day you wanted me to start. I couldn't remember what you told me. And he thought it was funny. He called me back and he said, that was a good one. He was like, you can intern. Long story short, I started interning when I was in college. Got enough experience to actually make an air check tape. I did it for like my last year and a half of college. And this wasn't a college radio station. It was a real radio station in San Antonio, Texas. Made an air check, which is a sample of my voice. Sent it back to Dallas to kind of stay in radio. Again, my goal was to always transition into television. And when I say God just continued to like open up doors in radio for me, and I'm one of those people who's like, go hard or go home. Like I'm going to give everything my all. And he never made that, like that transition never happened. And so I kind of just had to walk in the opportunities that God was giving me. You know what I mean? I had to walk in the doors that he was opening for me. And the rest is kind of history. So I would honestly be being dishonest if I said, I always knew I was going to be in radio. Absolutely not. It was either being a teacher or being on television, and neither one happened. And I just ended up having a very successful career because I gave it my all. And I guess over time, when you're doing stuff, you do fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And you get pretty good at it. Because I was terrible for a really long time. I feel like I was terrible for a really long time, but obviously, I guess somebody saw something in me. Because people used to like hate my voice. They used to hate my laugh. Girl, I used to get talked about so bad on the radio.
Wow.
But
I feel like you have such a distinct radio voice. I feel like you have such a distinct laugh. Like,
I'm trying not to laugh right now.
no, like I feel like that's what makes you so unique, like your voice and your tone. But like, I want to double back on something you just said. Tap, tap. You said, I called him and I said, when is the first day I'm going to start? Like, what made you take that approach of being so bold?
Okay, well, first of all, when you were in college, you already know, like, there's a grit and determination that you have when you're in college, and you're like almost fearless because the world hasn't beat you up yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I kind of was offended that I wasn't getting called back. And I always had this thing of like, I knew I had to follow up because that was like the professional thing to do. But I don't know, to be honest. I think that one day I was like, let me use a different approach. And it wasn't being egotistical. It was almost kind of being smart alecky, witty a little bit. And I was like, he's either going to hate me after he hears this voicemail, or maybe it'll like catch his attention, right? Because I wasn't rude about it. But now that I'm thinking back, I think it was one of those things. It was like, go hard or go home. And I guess nowadays I would encourage everybody, like, what are you doing to make yourself stand out without compromising your morals or anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I guess in that moment, I don't know how many people were calling him, asking him for an internship, how many people were calling him trying to get a job at the time.
Yeah.
And I guess, I don't really, girl, I don't know what the heck I was thinking, because now I'm cringing thinking that I did that.
But because to be honest, like knowing you personally, it just does not sound like you.
Yeah.
And you said like the world will beat you up so badly where you stop like the numbness of putting yourself out there, or it's like so paralyzing to put yourself out there, right?
Correct.
But you're doing that in that moment, and it's kind of full circle to what you did when you left, right? But like, I just want to like stop, pause, take a second and be like, okay, Jade, like I need to see the Jade who called the man who told him what day I'm going to start.
I love that you say that, because with you knowing me personally, you know that there's a passiveness to me a little bit now. And honestly, I used to not be that way. I used to be fearless. I used to be bold. I used to be all of the things. And I think depending on your surroundings, I think depending on the noise you allow to go in your life, and sometimes you don't even realize that you're allowing the noise to sink in, you start to dim yourself. You start to kind of fall back. You start to falter. And it's so interesting because if I'm being honest, during my radio career, I feel like I kind of lived a double life. Like I am bold, I am fearless. If you call anybody in my family right now, my godsons, and they say she's the attorney of our family. Yes. She doesn't play.
Yes.
I'm bold when it comes to my family. I don't play about them. I'm very like, I don't care if I embarrass myself. Like, I'm going to make sure they're taken care of. But when it comes to me, I think that some things happened over time that made me feel like if you want to win, you have to dim. And it was a lie. But you don't realize that you dim yourself to go along, to get along. Because sometimes you just want peace.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Okay, so you made the call. You get hired in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
You are a radio personality. You're thriving, right? Tell me, what was that moment when you called your mama and was like, Mama, I made it. Like, and I feel like I've created a career for myself.
Ooh.
And that was my mama I made it moment.
My mama I made it moment, I think, was about 3 years in of my radio career. And it was, I literally remember I worked at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I did nights, a night show. Mm-hmm. I got a call during the night, an email during the night show that said, I need you to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what's going on, but this sounds like I'm about to get fired, right? I remember saying a prayer in the studio thinking to myself, like, either this is going to be really great or really bad. I come in the next morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's like, come on, people. I get off at 2 a.m. Y'all want me to be back up here at 8? No sleep, okay? I come back in there, and I remember them pulling me to the side and saying, we want to make our morning show sound younger. And we've been listening to you at night. Again, unbeknownst to me, I don't even know anybody's paying attention. I thought everybody was asleep. And we'd like to bring you in on the morning show. What? Like, what are we talking about? The morning show and radio is the pinnacle of the radio station. It is the catalyst. It is what drives. Mornings have to be successful for middays to be successful. I mean, like, it's just, it is setting the tone of your radio station.
How old are you at this point? Like, I mean, like, you're 3 years in, so you're 3 years out of college. You're
Correct.
like a 24-year-old?
I'm not even 24. I think I was 23 at the time because I was a little bit younger when I graduated college. Yeah. I'm like, I'm 23 years old.
You about to get a morning spot gig.
But I'm like, wait, what? Who? Me? But check this out. So I did call my mama. That was my mama like, Mama, I can't believe it. Like, I was so shocked, but I was so afraid. I was about to join a morning show that had been, like, this was the same morning show I grew up listening to. They were still at the station. So these are like legends to me. They've been in the game for 20 plus years. They've been running the city for over 15 years. And even though that seems like a grand opportunity, like, it was so hard. I didn't know how to be a morning show personality. A lot of people look and say, oh, all y'all do is talk. The listeners, I'm telling you, they hated me. They hated, because I didn't understand tone. I didn't understand necessarily timing. I was just trying to kind of stay out of the way. And at that time, even though everybody welcomed me with open arms, everybody was very nice to me on the show, they wanted me to do like younger features. I brought in like a little kind of rhyme line type of thing. Mm-hmm. They're looking at me like, who the heck is this little girl bringing around? Like, change is uncomfortable.
For sure.
And I'm the change. Like, it didn't come with a bunch of claps. Mm-hmm. I literally can remember the first interview. It was allegedly this lady who claimed to be one of Michael Jordan's mistresses. I will never forget this. She wrote a book. And I remember the producer at the time whispering in my ear and saying, get on her. You know, like, give her like, you know, like, go in on her. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, she a side chick and she talk about Michael Jordan, so I'm about to go in on her. And so I was like, kind of mean and disrespectful to her in my questioning. Not trying to be, but I was trying to be stern. Mm-hmm. I thought that the people were going to love it. No. That was the first morning I remember driving home and crying because people called up and talked about how disrespectful my tone was. They talked about how dare you talk to people like that. Even though that's Michael Jordan's mistress and she's trying to break up the marriage or whatever at the time. And I learned a really, really hard lesson in that moment. I have to set the tone for who I want to be on the air. I didn't know any different. I was allowing people to coach me. I was the new girl. You just do what they're asking you to do. But I remember, I don't want to be the bad guy on the air. I just don't. It's not who I am authentically.
Who was the mentor that pulled you to the side? Like, who was the person who tapped you on the shoulder and was like, hey, chill out?
It's going to sound so bad, but honestly, nobody. My entire radio career, I craved mentorship. I learned everything the hard way. I learned everything by failing in radio, by negative feedback. And don't get it twisted. Like, eventually over time, the city loved me, right?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
But it started out rough. I wanted direction so bad. I wanted somebody to I remember I used to go to the program director at the time and say things like, hey, tell me what I need to do to get better. You doing all right? You good, kid, go ahead. And it's like, because I really want to, how I am. I'm a perfectionist. Like, I really want, it sounds crazy, but I want the negative feedback because it allows me to improve.
Yeah.
If you just keep telling me I'm good, am I really though? I really don't even know what I'm doing. So it was just bumping my head a lot.
But you got that. You got that from the listeners.
Yep.
You got that from the audience that mattered. And you were able to shift and not cater to, but learn from.
Yep.
To deliver to them what they needed, but then also create your own style. And I think that was important for you, right? So even though you didn't get it from someone directly, you got it from the people that counted and the people who made you the beloved personality for Dallas.
You know what? That's good, Marty. Yeah, it was. I learned over time that the listeners, they were my people.
Yeah.
Like the listeners, I don't have a job without the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, the listeners will set the tone. It was such a gift for me at the time, but it also kind of became a curse.
Yeah. Okay, so we're fast forwarding. You're doing radio. You're interviewing people. You're in spaces and places. Everybody knows Lady Jade.
You're so funny.
Tell me, like, what did it look like for you to say that first moment to say, hey, I think I might leave. I might not just do this anymore. How did that feel for you to say, hey, I might just step away?
Scary.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible. Confusing.
Yeah.
This was a career. This is all I know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I literally can remember nights when I could not sleep, is like I could feel my heart thumping out of my chest. It would be the weirdest thing. It's almost like God keeping me up to say there's so much more. It was the only way I can describe the feeling was like a yearning.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I believed that there was so much more, I had never seen so much more. And the world will tell you when you're in the limelight and you have access and celebrities are around and you're getting to do that and it looks good, the world will literally make you feel insane for wanting something different or believing that there's something more. And I started to feel ungrateful. I used to question myself and be like, am I being ungrateful? Because everybody thinks that this is like the dream, but it don't feel like the dream. It doesn't. And so I'm like constantly in conflict with myself, constantly in conflict with my soul, and trying to decide, is the world right or is my heart right? I don't know.
What was the thing that made you feel like it wasn't the dream, though? What was the thing that, because I can so relate to, the world putting kind of its signature of approval on something. And then secretly you're like, but I don't feel happy and I don't feel fulfilled. And, I just did all of that. And this is how I feel from it, right? What was the thing that was going to make you feel the complete opposite? What would it have been to say, I do feel joy. I do feel happiness. I do feel peace.
Marty, I wish I could I think that I would have been bolder to follow my heart if I knew that answer. I didn't know anything else. I didn't even know if there was joy on the other side. I think it just got to a point where when you're truly honest with yourself, and, one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not here to tell all and throw shade at anybody else. And so I can speak on my experience. When you have anxiety so much and you're starting to do breathing exercises on the way into work to kind of calm your nerves, that's not what God intended for your life.
For sure.
And that's anywhere.
For sure.
And it could have been stress I brought on myself. It could be stress that other people brought on me. It could be anything. And I just kept saying, this is not the life that God chose for me. Mm-hmm. And I would love to be able to tell you that, you know, in those moments, I chose faith over fear. I absolutely did not. I was more afraid and more paralyzed. I think when I look back, I think I was so afraid and so paralyzed for many years that I wouldn't even let the thought of leaving come into my mind. Also, there's this guilt that is involved in success. And people don't realize that. Like, you're doing better than a lot of your friends that you grew up with or family members or whatever. So it's like, how dare you even think about more? Yeah. Like, again, you feel like, dang, maybe I am ungrateful. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a psychological whipping. And so you're constantly going back and forth and trying to justify and say, yes, but I am so blessed and look at my life. And then you have this thing pulling on you saying like, no, there's more. And then you have this other thing pulling on you saying, hey, every time you go to your therapy sessions, you're talking about your job. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's not normal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's like, okay, so if that's the reality, I don't have a solution. I had no answer. Yeah. I'll put it to you like this. Sometimes when you pivot, I always had the belief that you do it once your faith kicked in. Mm. What I'm realizing is sometimes you got to do it afraid. Yep. What keeps us stuck? What will people say? What will people think? We're being loyal to a job or people that are not loyal to us. Mm-hmm. We just worry about what the outside world will say so much. And that will keep us stuck. I always thought that I was stronger than that. I always thought that I had it under control. I always thought that I did not care what other people thought about me. But it was a lie because that's all I could think about. Mm-hmm. What will they say? What will they think? How will this narrative be turned on me? What will the rumors be? I didn't want to deal with it. So you just stay stuck.
That's so real. But listen, I think so many people can relate to you. So many people can relate to being stuck in something, whether it's a bad marriage, a bad job, a bad relationship with a mother or a friend, whatever. So many people can relate to stuckness, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that there is an epidemic of stuckness, and people are trying to claw themselves out of being stuck, right? Yep. There is another side to being stuck, right? And that's what I want to encourage people with. Because like you said, your story is for you to tell. And this podcast episode by no means is a tell-all of anything, right?
Correct.
It is to encourage somebody to say, hey, look at if I did it, you can do it too. And I think that there's so much power in seeing and showcasing the vulnerability in it. And like, it was hard and it still is. And I'm sure you can attest to it still being hard. Yep. But there also is a freedom when you allow yourself to be unstuck.
It definitely is. I'll say it's funny when we talk about being stuck, you have to think of it from this perspective too. We are trying to control the narrative that people will put on us. But now that I'm on the other side of stuck, I'm thinking, but that narrative was already there anyways.
Correct.
We are so busy trying to make sure that people like us and accept us and whatever. But it's like, well, while you're there being like unhappy, they already don't like you, don't care. You get what I'm saying? Exactly. So it's like it really is again, it's just a psychological thing. But yes, on the other side of stuck, there is peace. Mm-hmm. There is excitement. there were also very scary moments.
For sure.
Because you don't know. But there's something I always so when I finally left and stepped away, there was a level of me of like release. I literally I can remember the first time I took a breath. If I'm being honest, I didn't even know that I had been holding my breath for all of these years.
Wow.
And I don't even know if I've ever shared this with you. I was literally with you and your team in D.C. We went to Washington, D.C. This was right after I had left and had already kind of had this scheduled on the books for months, right? Mm-hmm. So we go on this trip, a work trip. And I remember us getting there and one of your team members was like, oh, we're here early. Let's go ride bikes and scooters around D.C. Now, I had never been to D.C. before in my life because being on radio, you really don't have the opportunity to like travel leisurely because radio happens every day. So I'm like, we can do that? That was my thought. And they were like, yeah, we don't have to be up until the morning working. I'm like, okay, cool. So we're literally riding these bikes around D.C., looking at these monuments. And something happened during that ride. It literally makes me cry. I remember the air hitting my face and me thinking, wow, I don't have to get up at 3:00 in the morning. And it's something inside of me. It was like and I exhaled. That was the most freeing feeling for me. Because it hadn't hit me all the way yet either.
Yeah, for sure.
But in that moment of breath of like, I can enjoy this moment and not count hours. I can enjoy this moment and not worry about whatever I was worrying about before, the anxiety and just the negativity and whatever else, right? And that deep breath for me was like, you haven't taken a breath in years. You've been so tight and having to be so perfect and having to be so restrained and watch everything you say, everything you do. And when you do, so calculated that nobody cares that I'm in DC right now. Nobody can stop me from welling my legs and my feet and just being in this free space with people that will let me be free.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was such I will never forget that moment.
Wow.
Because I think that there are a lot of people that are out there right now that have been holding their breath and you don't even know you're holding your breath. And when is the last time that you just literally breathe? Like, we don't. Especially I've never been a man, so I can't speak for a man, but I think women, it's like, if we don't hold it together, who gonna hold it together?
Seriously.
You have all of these different roles and all of these different expectations and people expect you to be a certain way. And then you can't say this because if you say this, then this person is going to think this. And you can't do this because it's going to bother this person. And I don't want to have an issue. So it's constantly overthinking of every freaking thing we do in life, socially, relationally, career-wise, like everything you got to think, how is this going to affect every single person around me? And it is the consistency of having to calculate. It's so tiring. Girl, I remember this is going to sound so crazy and immature, but I used to look at Rihanna and be like, I want to be Rihanna because Rihanna don't give a dang. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rihanna going to smoke weed. She going to date who she want to date. She's going to do this. She's going to do that. And I used to admire that because somewhere along the line, along the road, I lost that. Because I started living into everybody's expectation for me. And look, I don't blame anybody. That was me. I didn't know it was happening. But there was a label that was put on me, like, this is who you are on the radio every day. This is who we expect you to be. And eventually, over time, you stop allowing yourself to be human. And being human means you change, you grow, you make mistakes. Like in the career I was in, you're so afraid to be canceled all the time. So it's like, this is who I am, And I look up, and I've been on this morning show for now 16 years, and I got to still be this person. It was,
That's
but
tough.
but I didn't realize it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it obviously was a lot more than that, but yeah, I think everybody just wants to be free.
Yeah. So, and it reminds me of, we just ended our summit, and a girl had come up to me. We had a wellness event, and she said, "Thank you so much for putting this event on." She was like, "This was such a good way for us to just start." She said, "I hadn't looked up at the sky in a year."
Wow.
And I was like, "What? Say what?" And she was like, I have literally not looked up. I've been so busy." And life can happen that way. And I can totally attest to holding your breath. I mean, holding your breath until, right? You're like, I'm just going to hold it until.
And then when you get that until,
You're
you're
still
holding
holding
it to
it.
the next until.
You're still holding it.
Because it's never enough.
It never is enough. Okay, so you're free. You did it. Like, you took the jump. You did the thing that everybody's afraid to do, right? I can attest to it.
Yeah.
I quit the corporate job, and I'm like, can I please go get a corporate job?
Correct.
I need insurance. No,
No, for real. Because insurance is high as an entrepreneur.
What the hell? I got a whole episode about it.
Okay, I gotta watch that.
But you did it. And so, like, tell me, like, what has been your new routine? How are you incorporating in your life, like, this freedom, but also this change?
Okay, that's a really great question. And I wish that I could come on here and just tell you about all this organization that I have. I have been a full-time entrepreneur for a little over a year. And when I tell you I have no routine, my life is all over everywhere, I'm unorganized, because it's almost like going to college for the first time. If anybody, or moving out of the house for the first time. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when I went to college for the first time thinking like, oh, I don't have to go to class. Like, they're not taking roll. And then after you miss class for a couple of weeks, you start to realize, oh, you missed some assignments and some tests. So you do have to go because, you know, this is being paid for. So it requires a level of discipline that I'm having to, you don't realize that when you have a daily routine of going to like a 9 to 5 or like, you know, life is telling you when to get up.
Yes.
You know what time to get up every single day. So I remember for a while being like, it feels so good to sleep in to like 9 or 10 and not get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, until I realized like, I have done nothing today. I have to pay my mortgage.
Yes.
I have bills. Like, what is going on? You know, I used to be so great at handling my money and keeping my bill money was at this bank. My play money was at this bank. My savings was at another bank. And now all of a sudden everything is like intertwined. I'm like,
I have to move my checking to my savings to my savings to my
girl, all of that. Like, and it's like, I don't have the systems of the structure to be a business and run it properly. You know why? Because nobody ever taught me how to. All I've ever gotten before was paychecks. Paychecks go in your bank account and you file your taxes the next year.
Yeah.
Now I'm having to structure all this stuff on my own. And it's like, what the heck?
You're doing a school of life all over again.
And so it has been, even though I've experienced peace on a level that I've never experienced, it has also had its challenges. Don't let anybody tell you that entrepreneurship is like easy, or there's like, oh shoot, I'll be working for myself so I can set my own hours. No, you can't. You got to work 10 times harder.
Yep.
Because if you're going to pay your bills, it's literally on you.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying, I got a gym membership, so I'm about to get fined. No, you're not. Go ahead and hire that personal trainer. You need that accountability partner. You get what I mean? So it definitely it's been amazing, but it is interesting being a student all over again.
But you have so much going on. You decided, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license.
I did.
And you did that. You're flipping properties, right? On top of hosting. Like, I love this new experiential life for yourself, that you get to pick and choose what you want to do.
That's good.
And so Like, tell her, like, you just decided, okay, I'm gonna go get my real estate license. Like,
No, like literally, I went to lunch with somebody and they were like, "You should get your real estate license." And I was like, "From where?" They told me the name of the school. I checked the calendar. I was like, "I could get this done in like 2 weeks. I can knock
Yes.
out all these classes." And I guess at that moment, I didn't have a plan.
mm-hmm.
I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I'm like, maybe this is a God thing, you know? So I just went to real estate school. It was so hard. I didn't even, y'all, it was so hard because I haven't been in school in forever. So my
Yes.
brain doesn't retain information. Like, so, but it's like, okay, I checked that off the box. So what's next? You know, you never think about, you got your real estate license. Now you actually have to go learn how to be a realtor because you don't learn it in real estate school.
Yeah, for sure.
So that has been challenging in itself. What's been interesting is I went from a career where I was an expert to now I'm a student all over again. And while it's great and it's rewarding and it's fun, it also is a knock on my pride.
mm-hmm.
It also is challenging. Imposter syndrome wants to set in. I'd rather go do what I'm good at
For sure.
than learn these new skills sometimes. But I'll say this, you know, when you decide to take a leap or jump, and if you don't, like I did and didn't have a plan, which I would not recommend that for anybody, unless you have actually saved up some money to be able to pay your bills. I look at it like this. God has given me this blank sheet of paper. With the blank sheet of paper, it means me and God can write our story.
Mm-hmm.
As exciting as that sounds, it's also very scary.
For sure.
So it's a constant battle between the excitement and the fear. And so with that, I think it's so important who you surround yourself around.
Yes.
And this is no gas to you. Having friends like Marty, like seriously, Marty, you are so freaking fearless. And you were like, you know, Marty has a mantra that says F fear. Like, what the heck?
Let's just go ahead and say it. Fuck fear.
I didn't know if my pastor was watching. I'm just joking. But when you have friends like that, it's so instrumental in breaking through glass ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize when you get out of certain environments that you mentally have to adjust to accepting this type of friendship. And what I mean by that is when people are speaking life into you and want to see you win, something will set back inside of you, the old you, and say, do they really want to see me win? Is this a setup? And you start to doubt the genuine people that God has really, truly placed in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So with me taking a leap, like I said, I can't say it was because I all of a sudden started believing God in this astronomical way and took the leap. I was able to take the leap because I had a tribe like you and a couple of other people. Because I'll say this, when you get older, your circles get smaller.
For sure.
But they get stronger.
Yeah.
And my circle constantly reminded me of who I was and the gifts that God had put inside of me. Mm-hmm. You were very instrumental. Not everybody at the radio station is going to hate you, but you were very instrumental in reminding me that God did give me a gift and talent. Because how many times have I self-doubted? How many times have I self-sabotaged? How many times do I go up and down with imposter syndrome? And you're like, absolutely not, friend. So your tribe and the people you surround yourself around, if they are not speaking life into you, then you're around the wrong people.
For sure.
They will remind you. And so as I'm writing on this blank piece of paper and allowing God to kind of flow with my life, but also at the same time, I'm like experimenting and trying new things and like, okay, real estate, and let's see where all of this lands. I still have people like you in my life that are like, no, what you wrote on that paper was too small. Marty's literally sent me this challenge recently. And it's so funny because your friends will literally learn you. And it's just one of those things when you have kindred spirits, there'll be times when I'm down, But because I'm down and I hear something that I need encouragement, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're down and you need encouragement, you'll send it to me.
Yeah.
But Marty is one of those people that will make you dream and have vision. And Marty sent me an exercise where I had to write out, like, what does my perfect life look like? And it was the hardest thing I've ever done because I stopped dreaming a long time ago. I stopped dreaming and started. Here's the thing that we do as believers. I'm just going to let God bring him to my life. I don't want to write down any goals or whatever because I want God to have his way. While that may be the truth, I think God wants us to dream so big and so ridiculous that if and when it happens, because it's impossible for you to do it on your own,
Yes.
that we will still give him glory for it.
Yes.
And you made me write down what my dream life looks like. And I told myself, the reason why I did is because Marty sent me hers first. And yours was so bold and big. It gave me permission to say, when I send you mine back, you're not going to judge me. How many of us honestly have friends and family members, and I'm talking about some of our closest friends, that will hear these dreams and be like, girl, who you think you are, Oprah?
Right.
Girl.
Yes.
And did. It does. Yeah. And you gave me permission. And I appreciate that. You've helped me so much throughout this process. I never knew you'd play this role in my life. Mm-hmm. I love my day ones. I love my friends from childhood. They will always be my sisters.
Yeah.
But my day twos and who God has strategically put in my life have played a role that I never thought was possible. And you're one of my day twos.
Yes.
I mean, we met like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So when we talk about pivoting, when we talk about, being able to have the audacity, you know why I have the audacity? Because you had it first.
Do not do this to me.
And it's not about being a copycat. It's not about, but it is. God knew I needed to see it was okay again. When we talk about me being younger and being bold and being fearless, I think at some point the world told me I was too much. I think at some point the world was like, it's the whole, oh, you light skin, long hair, and you think you blah, 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 and you always da-da-da-da-da. You doing too much. Mm-hmm. And it's like, just to make other people comfortable, I stopped doing too much. And I lost my vision unknowingly. I stopped learning how to dream unknowingly. And God was like, I'm going to put this other little light-skinned girl in your face. No, just like, but I'm going to put somebody seriously in your life that is not afraid to dream, to just show you it's okay. I think that's what everything that you're doing with this podcast is what people are looking for. I'm not okay. And when she says she's not okay, it makes me feel okay that I'm not okay.
Yeah.
She's telling me that she's unorganized and she doesn't have it together and she's still trying to figure it out. Oh, good. Me too.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We're giving each other permission to be kind of jacked up.
Right.
Because we live in a world now where we have taken the human out of humanity. Everybody has to be perfect on Instagram and have money and have designer and just be living this dream and never fall off and never not know the answers. And it's not reality. So telling these stories, sharing these stories, is what is going to be the catalyst to change somebody's life.
Absolutely. And that's all we want to do. We want to humanize the stories, and we want to show that being audacious does not mean you have it all figured out.
And when you're not audacious, you are not in that, I can't believe you had the audacity. Find you somebody that does. get in the room with people that actually got the audacity, and they will teach you that it is okay to actually have the audacity to dream big, to dream limitless, and to break through the glass ceiling.
That is the perfect way to end this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jade, for sharing your story. We are cheering for Jade. We are cheering for anybody who thought about taking a leap. I can attest to it myself. I know what it feels like. But thank you for sharing with me, because somewhere along my journey, too, of hearing all the no's, you can easily dim your light. And I said, no more dimming my light. I have a voice. Oh, as a matter of fact, I have much more of a story to tell.
Yep.
And I'm going to start this podcast. And I'm going to let you guys hear my story and listen to me as the expert. And this is me taking a really audacious approach of putting myself out there as well. So thank you for sharing.
Good for you. I'm so proud of you. You're
And
doing
thank you for being with us on our special guest episode. And thank you for being audacious enough to believe in yourself on this white sheet of paper, this blank. That you and God are going to write this beautiful story on.
Thanks, friend.
Thank you guys for tuning in to our episode today on the audacity of leaving a 20-year career. Listen, if you are a woman and you're listening to today's episode and you're thinking about taking a big jump, a big leap, I'm telling you, do it. Bet on yourself. Now, don't call me when you broke, because you're going to be broke along the way. But it's so much better to be broke and happy than to be broken in so many disbeliefs about living a life that God does not intend for you to have. So make sure you subscribe and share with a friend the audacity of ambitious women. As always, thank you for listening to this episode of the Audacity of Ambitious Women. If you like what you heard, and I'm sure you did, please let us know. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast and drop us in the group chat to spread the word. It's time to be audacious.